Hello everyone, my family, my friends, and my esteemed colleagues. Today, our reprogramming is continuing by learning about our health enemy number one, which is the biblical forbidden fruit, which is what I call dietary glucose. It's a glucose that comes to our body through our diet. Now, the only way glucose can come into our diet is we eat our food, especially not our food, our vegetables and fruits cooked or processed. Why cooked? Because glucose is starch, which is food for plants, and it is shielded from animals by a coating of cellulose. So since we cannot digest cellulose, we cannot get in touch with it, and neither can any animal, excluding herbivores, but they do not eat starches, they only eat greenery, and they ferment it, and they need to eat a lot of it to create enough fatty bacteria, which then becomes their food through the fermentation process. So now, glucose, as I explained, the only way it can come into our body is that affects us negatively is when it's taken out of the protective coating, out of the cellulose, and this is done most commonly by bursting the cellulose through heat. Corn you cannot digest. You expose it to heat, pop, you get popcorn. Well, it becomes white. The white is a glucose when the cellulose membrane, the shell, exploded and broke up. Same as when you cook potatoes, when you cook rice, when you cook beans, you always break down the cellulose and you get into starch. Now, what happens? Starch actually is one of the root causes. Well, dehydration on a cellular level, lack of minerals and water, and on the other side is cellular reprogramming. And cellular reprogramming, because environment has changed, is happening under the influence of starch, not sugars. Fructose has nothing to do with it. It is the starch. And this is why nobody really talks about it. It's always look at this way. Okay, before were fats. Now we know it's not a fat problem. Oh, it's sugar problem. Okay, sugar, which sugar? Fructose. Let's look here. Fructose, fructose. It turns, liver turns it into fats, and at the same time produces uric acid. So this is the problem. Well, guess what? Same happens if the liver processes glucose. It turns it into fat and in uric acid. And our plates are loaded with it. So if you're vegetarian and if you are fat because you ate a lot of glucose. Glucose is sugar. But since your body cannot deposit it as a sugar, liver turns it into fat and deposits it as a fat. And at the same time produces uric acid, which you cannot cleanse if you are low on sugar, on salts and water, because you don't have enough plasma. So it starts crystallizing in your kidneys, it acidifies you, so it has to be neutralized, there goes buffers, and here we go with problems which are caused by a consumption of glucose. It is blood circulation, uric acid, of course, kidney stones, gallstones, rheumatism. Then it triggers resistance to insulin. So here comes your diabetes. Diabetes is 90% of it is resistance. Even at diabetes 1, it's resistance to insulin on higher level. Since the energy becomes manipulated in your body now by presence or not presence of availability of glucose, now you have starvation moments as you have plentiful moments. Brain does not like these things because it uses a lot of energy. And since glucose you cannot deposit and take when you need it, if you are not eating every 2 hours, the brain is always in starvation mode. Yeah, you eat, 10 minutes later, sugar comes in, boom, energy is there. Half hour later, energy is diminishing, and then until you eat next time, you bring next time you bring carbohydrates, brain is in starvation. First making you sleepy, and then if you force it to work, it becomes goes in a stress mode, and you become irritable just to tap on glycogen. Now, a huge amount of what we call diseases are nothing more than symptoms created by glucose. Let's look at it. For example, when glucose enters the blood, well, first, it cannot enter a lot of it if we are eating correctly, so because there is not enough transporter. You need GLUT protein. But if you start producing insulin, at the same time you start producing more GLUT protein. So every day, if glucose becomes part of your diet, every day you are going to be producing insulin and you will be producing GLUT. So your GLUT levels are rising. What does that mean? That your sugar absorption rises as well. So you will start absorbing more and more sugar. Now you will absorb more than cells can use to make energy, and the level of sugar in the blood will be increasing, which liver tries to deal with by turning them into fat and deposit them as a fat. While doing that, it produces uric acid as well, and you are becoming acidic. If that continues and you cannot flush it out, well, what happens is that, again, amount of absorbed sugar, glucose, remember glucose, not the white little thing on a table that you use as a sweetener, that's full of fructose. That's not such a problem as your average potato, boiled carrots, for example, cooked carrots, or rice, grains like bread, doesn't matter, whole wheat. It's even worse than white bread. Why? Because it's basically white flour with a little bit of dry fiber put in. Like this makes any difference. Only for a brain, so it can manifest, oh, little relief because you told the brain that this is good for you. But there's absolutely no difference there. So you are daily, as you are eating glucose, you are daily increasing your sugar absorption, and because you are increasing daily amount of GLUT protein, the transporter. So now, since a lot of glucose is coming in, liver has to turn it into fat, so liver produces more fat that it can actually put back into circulation and into adipose tissue, and liver is becoming fat. So fatty liver is a problem of you eating carbohydrates and not you eating eggs, which doctors always confused. Eating eggs and pork has nothing to do with your fatty liver. It is all your sugar, dietary glucose absorption. People always say, well, I'm not eating much sugar. I'm barely eating bread or having big pasta dish. Pure dietary glucose. Fructose does not do any of these things. It will not create production of insulin. It doesn't increase its absorption of sugars. So you can eat as many fruits as you want as long as you don't eat dietary glucose. Again, boiled, cooked, heated vegetables and fruits, especially the starchy ones. Now, another thing is, as glucose is coming into the cells, now the cells have to manipulate it. and they need enzymes for this, which usually they don't need because they do not use glucose as a fuel. We are being told this in a school because again in the schools we are being told, look at this way, don't look here. And we always focus where we are being told. Even though in the small letters is mentioned, yeah, but the Krebs cycle also can be done on fat. Well, we have deposits of fat, we don't have deposits of sugar. So if we are naturally accumulating fat, it's our deposit of energy. Why would we why would we be depositing energy that we should not be using? This is utter nonsense, but nobody thinks about it. We just take everything for granted. Oh, we are told this by authority, so it is so. Authority is the biggest liar there is. Don't trust anything authority ever tells you. So, here we go. As the enzyme, which is glycoside hydrohydrolase, has to be produced to manipulate the sugar now. The gene that activates cell to produce this particular enzyme, normally, in normal conditions, when it's vibrating properly, it is vibrating on different level and stimulates cell to produce another protein called GCMF, which is immune marker. So when we are always surprised that animals in nature are so resilient to infections, of course, because everything gets marked that has to be destroyed. They don't have cancer, it gets destroyed. So what happens? Well, more glucose we allow in our body, our cells start using it, they are forced to use it, so they start decomposing, disengaging mitochondria because they produce energy very quickly using a sugar. Not that glucose has a lot of calories more than fat, it has less than half of the calories of fat, but produces energy anaerobically because the molecule of sugar has its own oxygen, so it doesn't need oxygen from outside. So the cell, when it starts working on carbohydrate, producing energy, produces carbon dioxide, which level of carbon dioxide rises and becomes higher than basic pressure of oxygen that comes in, and it cannot be pushed out, cannot be changed. So the cell is becoming acidic. And we know cancer cells are anaerobic because, and what they use is basically glucose to run themselves. They are actually cleansing station that eliminates a lot of sugar from the blood circulation of the organ which cancer is trying to protect. So, as you increase dependence on glucose, you are producing a lot of nagalase, this enzyme, to be able to manipulate it. Your production of GCMF basically stops. So now you have fungus and bacteria and virus living in your body, not being challenged. Microphage just goes by, hi buddy, how are you doing? Because it's not marked, does not know how to destroy it. Which, of course, negatively affects your whole body. Now, infections become easily, progress easily because there is no body's response to it. Also, as the amount of glucose being absorbed rises, the amount of mitochondria that is active is diminishing. So from 2000 you may go to 500 or less mitochondria. This is enough for this explosive production of sugar when you start eating. And because the cells are acidic, they cannot hold the charge. So even if you don't do nothing, they discharge in faster rate and you are becoming tired, sleepy, even if you don't do nothing. And your cells require energy, so they ask for more energy. And body sends triglyceride because it does not have stores of sugar. Do not confuse glycogen, because I already mentioned before, glycogen is produced by cells that use it only in emergency cases as a booster fuel. So glycogen you only have in your muscles and in your brain. Little bit in brain, more in the muscles, and some in the liver, and liver is the only donator. So glycogen in a muscle can only be used by this muscle cell. It cannot push the glycogen out. Same is with the brain. Only liver cell can push it out, and there is definitely not enough to make you work on it. You become hypoglycemic if you try to work on this very quickly. And this is why people, glucoholics, which are 99% of population, if they don't eat within 3-4 hours, they become irritable and go in hypoglycemia. They have to eat, because starvation puts cells in a stress mode just to be able to tap in glycogen. So there are plenty neurological problems coming along with it. As the circulation is being affected, every cell in your body, because insulin, first blood vessels, the cells that form them are being constantly irritated by insulin. So they want to thicken their membranes, so they ask for more cholesterol. So your body produces more cholesterol, either from sugar, glucose that you eat in the liver, or if you have eaten some meat and fat, then before it being pushed into the blood from your intestines, the intestine will create cholesterol just to fulfill the demand of your cells. Higher cholesterol is just signal that you have something happening in a body that is not normal, and your cells require more cholesterol. Now when they start thickening their membranes, so they avoid this irritation of insulin, well, now you need more insulin to irritate them, and this is why your production of insulin is increasing and increasing until one day you cannot produce more to irritate enough the thick-walled cell to absorb insulin, and you go from diabetes 2 into diabetes 1. On the other side, this increased thickness of the membranes of the cell make the whole tissue thicker, less flexible. And here you go, your blood vessels cannot anymore dilate properly, and here comes increased blood pressure. So problems from one thing, you have a variety of problems happening from the same source. We are being told that you have diabetes, you have to be careful because this will make your blood pressure, your circulation will be deteriorating. Well, it's not because now you are showing higher levels of sugar. It started even with a low level of sugar. It started when you start eating dietary glucose. Its presence, even before you show any sign of disease, already you are undermining your health on this level, but you just don't know it until symptom shows up. And when your sugar level starts increasing because your liver cannot fast enough transform it into fat, now sugar goes above the calibration point, you start urinating it. And to eliminate it, you need more water, so it starts dehydrating you. And many people start losing weight. They drink a lot of water, they start losing weight because body is busy cleansing. Now, all this can be avoided simply. Stop eating this garbage. But how can we do it when even in Bible it says that bread, Jesus made bread, it's good for us. Well, this notion came before Jesus, 6,000 years ago. It came with Anunnaki, it came with fallen angels. And you have description of this on old Sumerian tablets. Even shown that gods that from heaven came showed us how to plant wheat and how to prepare food from wheat, how to eat it. Before we were all nomads, just moving along, following the animals. And everybody who says, oh, we used to be fruit eaters or plant eaters before, this is utter nonsense. There is absolutely no way where this information can come from, except somebody invented it and now you have a million parents repeating it. So it's nonsense, nonsensical. Sugar, glucose, dietary glucose, starch, because it reprograms your cells in this manner that basically it forces you to depend on glucose because it has taken many mitochondria out of action. So when sugar is not coming, when glucose is not coming, it cannot produce enough energy from fat. And you become hungry. And you become not only hungry, but you lose power. So you become tired, hungry and tired, debilitated. We should never be in a situation of being unable to hunt because we are hungry. This is not normal state. Of course, because again, we are running on the wrong fuel. It's, what creation is this? Let's just imagine you are this mechanic and you invent two-stroke engine. And you have a gasoline to give you the energy, and then you have oil that you mix with gasoline to lubricate the cylinders so it can work properly. And now you decide to make a huge 5-gallon tank for oil and 1-ounce tank for fuel. Does that make any sense? Well, this is when you compare glycogen and fat deposits in a human body. How can a body like this work? Just think about it. Think about it. You don't have to be any expert. Just listen to this video a few times, because once when we are programmed the wrong way, we just reject things. And then somebody says, oh, vegetables are great, and we should be on vegetables, we should be juicing. Yeah, you can juice when you are fat, because you have enough energy in your body, so you stop eating dietary glucose, because if it's raw, it doesn't affect you. So your cells start reprogramming. The juice more or less just brings you some water, but you are living on your fat, so you start losing the weight, you start feeling better, you're not being poisoned with glucose anymore, everything starts functioning well, and you say, wow, vegetables, juicing, this is great. Yeah, but once when you lose all this fat, where your energy comes from? There is zero energy in juice, unless it's again coming from a cooked soup or some cooked concoction. If it's raw, there is no energy in there. There is no energy in raw vegetables. Zippity-doo, nothing. There is no energy in fruits. Little bit of sugar, fructose that is laced with, does not even make it to run the digestion. Just makes you hungrier. These are simple facts about glucose that nobody can dispute. I mean, there are letters, this is even in the books, but nobody looks at it this way. Because we are being told, don't look here, look over there. Fructose, you eat fruits. Ah, the corn syrup. Yeah, this it's 50% fructose, but 50% dietary glucose. And once, when your absorption is high, when you have a lot of gluten, you will start absorbing a lot of fructose as well. So now even fruits are toxic to you, because now all this fructose, same like glucose, worse on one way because your cells will not take it. So everything is just burden to a liver that has to turn it into fat, and at this time produces also uric acid. But the same thing is happening with glucose. So it's not problem only of fructose. Or the only difference is if you do not have dietary glucose and you just eat fruits, you are never ever going to become diabetic, because you will never have to be producing insulin, you will never irritate your cells, you will never increase the number of gluten and increase absorption of sugars. All that will happen is if you have too much fructose, a little bit get absorbed and the rest goes into intestines, in colon, ferments, produces alcohol, gas, gives you diarrhea, and you get rid of it. And this is what is happening here in Amazonia with monkeys, because mango became very popular, so people are planting mango everywhere, and monkeys here are not used to mango and they like it. So when it's mango season, they start eating mango and they all come up with shits. So people say, oh, they are getting sick. Well, they are getting sick. Yeah, well, they eat too much mango, so now they have diarrhea. Same thing if you are constipated. What is natural remedy? Prune juice, prunes, dry fruits, because they are loaded with fructose, so some of it will not get digested. It goes into the colon, it ferments, creates alcohol, it inflames intestines, so this way it doesn't absorb water, more water stays in the colon, feces get softer. There is no fiber that has anything to do with your stool, with the quality of the stool. It's all about water, which I'm going to address some other time. So here we go, the forbidden fruit, glucose. And whoever pride himself, oh, I'm long-term vegetarian, I just live on vegetables, well, you are living on glucose. Sooner or later it is going to hit you, because vegetables are toxic, because they protect themselves from being eaten. Since they cannot run, they protect themselves with proteins, lectins, gluten, other stuff. Whatever is medicinal is toxic, and plants are full of medicinal properties, more or less. Okay, this is a food for thought. This is a part of the reprogramming, learning the truth. Let this enter your brain, so your brain can calculate, can weigh things around. Without information, it can do nothing. It will just keep rolling in a circle, repeating the old same things. Until next time, it was great talking to you guys. Bye-bye.